Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for all those who joined early and waited for a few minutes. And thank you for all those who just joined now. A very, very warm welcome to the multi venture ownership opportunity, where we discuss your transition to being an actual business owner of 10 startup ventures. My name is Viraj Valor. I'm the Senior Vice President based out of our headquarters, Mumbai. And this afternoon, I'm joined by my colleague Rashmi Sharma, who heads South and is based out of Bangalore.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session.
So, ladies and gentlemen, how is this session structured? The session is structured in a question and answer format in order to give you maximum clarity. For those who have already watched the landing video, this session is going to be a quick refresher. In case you have not watched the landing video, no worries. We will cover the benefits, the earnings, the exit, risk mitigation, all of that. Feel free to type your queries, preferably at the end of each slide, using the Q&A box so that we can answer your questions on the go and it will help the momentum and the flow of conversation going. Okay. Alternatively, at the end of the session, we will provide some time to answer any further questions that you may have. So the basic information that is required for you to confirm your participation will be provided. An understanding of the multi-venture ownership, the legal participation structure, all of that will be discussed today. Now, we'll start with the first important question. Why is it so crucial to own a diversified portfolio of multiple business ventures? So, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that you need to understand here is that this is not an investment. This is not a fund. This is actually an opportunity to co own 10 business ventures, right? So you have two options. You can do your own homework and go directly invest in startups at your own risk, wherein visibility of those projects cannot be guaranteed. Alternatively, you can choose to become a business owner through an established, regulated, professionally managed platform wherein you have complete visibility and information flowing to you. So, having said that, don't you think you need at least one asset in your portfolio that has the potential to provide you with a massive upside of 5x to 10x to 25x or even 100x in 6 to 9 years? Because not a single conventional investment has the capability to even provide 10% of this massive upside. So, in how many years will you be able to multiply, say, 1 crore, for example, into 15 crores using conventional assets? Mutual funds probably take you 24 years, fixed deposits maybe 35 years to multiply your 1 crore into 15. But the problem is by that time, 70 to 80% of the value would have been eroded by inflation. So essentially, your capital would have grown by 2 to 3 times. So you will be forever trapped in this vicious wealth multiplication the inflation cycle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, haven't you seen it across every news headline? The phenomenal growth of unicorn ventures, I'm sure you would have read about it somewhere. In just the last 10 years, India has added a staggering 119 unicorns, basically companies with a valuation of $1 billion or above. An additional 122 companies are slated to become unicorns in just the next 12 months. If you take an average of about 10 early stage investors in each of these ventures, there are 2,500 plus individuals who have successfully multiplied their wealth by 25x to 100x over a short span of 6 to 9 years. Now, shall we track a case study of one such example? There are hundreds of such examples. So, Kunal Bal of Titan Capital invested a modest 57 lakhs in Urban Company in 2015. In just 3 years, that value zoomed to 6 crores. And in just 6 years, by 2021, that value grew to 30 crores. And in 9 years, by 2024, that value skyrocketed to 111 crores. That's a staggering 193x return in just 9 years. So, when you look at becoming a business owner, when you look at becoming an owner of 10 ventures, it's imperative for you to understand returns from a stage perspective. Right now, your 10 business ventures are in the setup stage. As these ventures move towards the incubation stage, the consolidation stage, and the expansion stage, the timelines of which have been mentioned in this slide, you can see your wealth multiplication at a conservative 5x upside to a 15x upside. Although 15x can never be capped as a max, even 15x for that matter is a conservative projection. So 1 crore contribution, typically on an extremely conservative side, by the time it reaches the expansion stage, gets you about 5 crores. And if you look at a 15x upside, 1 crore gets you about 15 crores. Right. So it is important to understand that the valuation, or rather the jump, the appreciation that you receive, it happens as these businesses move from one venture to the other, which is why we provide you with a quarterly dashboard in order to keep you updated. Not to mention, there are other financial documents also that will keep coming your way. Now, another key question is, why are these massive wealth multiplication opportunities currently accessible to only few individuals? Because that 1% population in our country that comprises of ultra high net worth individuals, corporate family houses, have access to world class teams that help them identify such opportunities at early stages. They have skilled legal teams to work with them to structure these lucrative deals and protect their capital. And of course, their personal branding and financial power helps them secure a priority invitation. As far as retail individuals are concerned, at the most, they might get an opportunity to invest into a fund that probably looks at pre IPO companies. But, ladies and gentlemen, there is a huge difference between entering into a pre IPO fund and actually becoming a business owner of 10 ventures at a setup stage. There is absolutely no comparison. Now, the question is, how do we, Auspace, the parent company, enable you access to such opportunities? What we have done is, we have put up a high performance venture development platform or ecosystem under an entity called Altellect Venture Management by bringing together the finest brains in the country and even overseas. Altellect will manage your complete ownership process and the journey of owning multiple business ventures. So, Altellect is obviously managed by world class C suite professionals, each coming with 2 decades plus of experience in their core domain: finance, product, operations, marketing, revenue, and HR. You will be provided with a complete list of the C suite panel at a later stage. And also, starting next year, early next year, you will have an online meet and greet by one of these panelists themselves. So you can get an update right from the horse's mouth. You remember I talked about visibility? Visibility is very important when you are a business owner. Now comes the next key question. What is the legal structure under which my multiple business ownership will be executed. So, ladies and gentlemen, you will be allotted shares in the funding private limited entity that will pick up equity stake in all the 10 ventures. You will receive preference shares in proportion to your participation amount in a demat form. As the valuation of these 10 ventures grow across various stages, the value of your shares will proportionately multiply. The next question is a question that a lot of our clients keep asking us, that how do typically venture capitalists or institutional investors or ultra high net worth individuals reduce their risk, because they invest in crores. They reduce their risk by spreading their participation allocation across multiple ventures that offer high growth potential. They keep making partial strategic exits across various growth stages of the business. Incubation, consolidation, expansion. So even if just 10% of the ventures under their portfolio succeed, they generate 25x to 50x capital multiplication. Now the question is Altellec going to follow the same strategy? The answer is Altellec will implement a stronger risk reduction and mitigation strategy. How? Only 15 to 25% of the total fund allocation is towards ventures that are disruptive, meaning riskier businesses. Those who are familiar in this zone, I'm sure that on a daily basis, we get participants who have, some of them have a very good idea about startups, early stage setups. Some of you participants may not have come across such an opportunity, which is perfectly fine. Disruptive business simply means businesses that have the capability to change the rules of the game to such an extent that the competition is either forced to adapt or disappear. Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto are examples. So these businesses, while they offer a phenomenal growth in valuation, they're also riskier. Therefore, only 15 to 25% of the portfolio allocation will go towards risky ventures. The majority allocation, 75 to 85%, will go to ventures that operate in mainstream established products and services. Real estate, retail, franchising. We look at the market size, the potential, the opportunity. Case studies of similar startups in similar sectors, their valuations. And of course, with the USP, our unique selling proposition being offering curated bespoke products. And a portion of your allocation is also towards ventures that will generate cash flows and that will be distributed across to you as dividends. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're familiar with the startup world, you know that typically startups use their cash flows to reinvest back for expansion. Expansion is the number one criteria for them, right? For example, if you look at Zomato, Zomato has been a loss-making company for the past 15 years. But the fact whether the company is making profit or loss has little or no correlation with the valuation. The company is valued at $1.2 trillion. So it's the valuation that actually reflects your financial growth or the wealth multiplication. So what we are doing here is that out of the 10 ventures, 2 to 3 ventures, the cash flows that we generate from the third year onwards, we will start distributing it as dividends. And obviously, because you are a preference shareholder, you have preferential right towards dividends, exits, and returns. So that will accelerate your wealth multiplication journey. The next key question: what are my exit stages and options? To discuss this and a few more important aspects, I now hand over the podium to my colleague Rashmi. Rashmi, all yours. I'll put myself on standby now.
Thank you so much, Viraj. That was an insightful round. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very pertinent question is what are my exit stages and options, right? So, let's talk about exits because for every investor, that's where the real story is, right? So, you're not locked in indefinitely here. Okay, you can exit across one or more stages, whether it's during incubation, whether it's during consolidation, expansion, pre IPO, or even post IPO. The buyers of your stake are not casual players here. Okay, they are seasoned angel investors, HNIs, family offices, venture funds, corporates, and institutions. In other words, people who understand value, and the exit would come as a buyback from them. So, what this means for you is that we at Altellect plans progressive exit strategy across multiple stages. So, your exposure risk is reduced and your chance of capturing higher growth multiples increases. It's a well structured, thoughtful exit path. Now, you ask, what are the business ventures under the portfolio? And what exactly are we investing into? Now, this portfolio covers a wide range, a wide array of high potential areas, okay? Right from AI applications to lifestyle transformation, from global communities to real estate management. Now, it also spans venture management, networking platforms, commercial and residential interiors. There's construction, wellness, cosmetics, F&B, and much more. So, this diversification ensures you're not dependent on the success of a single sector. Instead, your exposure spreads across proven industries while still capturing innovation. And of course, we'll give you more detailed insights into these ventures during your one-on-one clarification call that you would be scheduling after the session. Now you ask, what are the legal documents for the participation? So what is the legal backbone of this fund, right? So your ownership is secured through a preference share subscription agreement in the SPV, which is a private limited company. Now, this is what ensures your stake in over 10 ventures. Okay, you will receive shares directly proportional to your participation. Alongside this, we provide complete transparency. We provide valuation reports, business plans, capitalization tables, financials, every other relevant document. In fact, before you even participate, you'll get a detailed list of all documents with timelines. So this way, you know exactly what you're holding, when you'll receive it, how your participation is protected. In short, your investment isn't just well placed, it's also well documented and it's safeguarded. Now you ask, is my participation regulated by any government body? Many people ask that. Is this participation actually regulated? The answer is yes, of course. The special purpose vehicle or SPV that acquires ownership across all these ventures is fully regulated by the MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Just like any other private limited company, it follows strict compliances, capitalization, valuation, dividend issuance, taxation, and financial reporting. So all of this is handled by Altellect on your behalf. And as a participant, you will be a preference shareholder in this regulated structure. So your involvement is backed by governance, compliance, and transparency at each single step. Now you'll ask, why is this opportunity limited to just maximum of 55 to 60 participants? Now this is not an arbitrary limitation. It's purely mathematical, well calculated. So the combined capital and operational expenditure across these 10 ventures is about 55 crores. Okay. 55 to 60 crores. And of this, already 20 to 21 crores have already been raised during research and strategy stages. Now the remaining requirement is close to about 41 crores. Now, when you divide that roughly 75 lakhs per participant on an average, it comes to a maximum of about 55 to 60 people who can be part of this opportunity. So this is not about exclusivity for the sake of it. Okay, it's about a very clear roadmap, clear financial structure, ensuring that each participant has a meaningful ownership in the stake. Now, how do you further increase? How do we further increase capital growth multiple? So what this essentially means is you decide your participation based on only on the funds you can comfortably arrange over the next 6 months. Okay, since contributions won't be called beyond that, beyond 6 months. So once you lock in, your shares are fixed at today's valuation for the next 12 months, which sets the base for your growth. So the real advantage here is leverage. You get to enjoy 1.5x to 5x value, 1.5x to 5x valuation multiple on the total committed amount, even though your payments are staggered across 5 to 7 months. Now that's the beauty of this fund. So in short, early commitment secures your growth at present valuation and multiplies your capital efficiency. Now, we emphasize that ownership of multiple automated ventures is the only asset class capable of delivering capital growth of 5 times, 10 times, even 15 times within just 6 years. Point to note. Now, you ask, what should be my initial capital then? What should be my initial contribution? Now, this slide explains how to decide your initial capital contribution. Step 1 is to calculate the maturity amount you want at the end of 6 to 9 years. Step 2, you only need to contribute about 20% of that amount upfront, since your baseline projection works on a 5 times wealth multiple in 6 years. For example, if your goal is say 5 crores, your initial contribution is just 1 crore. This is the baseline, and the upside can be much higher, 10 times to even 25 times, meaning your 1 CR could potentially create 10 to 25 crores over the horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said above, the ownership of multiple automated ventures represents a unique asset class, okay, proven to generate substantial capital appreciation, which will help you achieve 5 times, 10 times, or even 15 times growth just in 6 years. Now, the next one is, what are the key documents that you're going to receive? Now, this slide addresses one of the most important aspects of this fund, okay, what documents you will receive at every stage of your participation. Now, before paying the 1% intent, you will already have full clarity, full vision. You will receive a summary of the share subscription agreement, the complete list of ventures, the step-by-step participation process, and answers to all the FAQs. Now, once you pay the 1% intent, we provide you with a draft copy of the full share subscription agreement, along with detailed information about all the ventures that will ensure complete transparency before you even move ahead. After you complete your contribution, minimum of 35 lakhs, you'll formally sign the share subscription agreement. This is the document that legally allots your shares in the SPV in direct proportion to your contribution. Additionally, before you even commit the 1% intent, you're entitled to a dedicated clarification call, by the way. And this gives you the opportunity to clear any doubts directly from our teams. A link for scheduling this call is available in the chat section right now. In short, every step is documented, structured, and transparent. So you always know exactly where you stand in the process, right? Finally, you'll ask, what are my steps to multi-venture ownership? Okay, now that you've understood the model, let me take you through the simple next steps to secure your participation. So to confirm your spot, all you need to do is credit just 1% of your total participation amount of 51,000, whichever is lower. Okay. Now, that will happen only after your clarification call is done, by the way, and once you're thorough with the model. Now, once you do this, you'll immediately receive an official invitation to participation via WhatsApp and email as well. So this will include all the preliminary information you need to move ahead with confidence. So do keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that that invitation will remain valid only for 72 hours. And after that, it will automatically be extended to the next in line participants. Since we currently only, like I said, we only have about 55 to 60 slots open. Now, finally, once your 1% intent amount is credited, we'll share the next set of documents with you so that you can proceed seamlessly in your ownership. So the details of which we will discuss in the clarification call, and I insist that you book your slot using the Calendly, the link given in the chat section. Meanwhile, Virat, should we take up? Are we ready to take up Q&A?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you can use the Q&A window to type in your questions. Before that, let me give you a quick recap. Okay, the most important point that you need to understand, especially when you ask or frame your questions, is that this is not an investment product. This is not a fund. This is a business opportunity where you are a co-owner of 10 ventures that are professionally managed for you. As a business owner, you will keep receiving financial information throughout your participation period in the form of a quarterly dashboard. You will receive market capitalization reports, profitability forecasts, and meet and greet sessions conducted by the investment team. Diversification is key in any business in order to mitigate risk, and that is precisely what we have done here. Like I mentioned before, only 25% to 35% is going towards high risk ventures. The remaining are in stable, scalable sectors: retail, franchisee, residence and commercial real estate, interior design and build. Each of these sectors have been arrived at by looking at their past performance, looking at their future scalability, comparing startups that have been in those sectors before, comparing their growth, their valuation, and then we arrived at a completely diversified model. You are a preference shareholder. The agreement is the backbone of your representation of being a business owner. Technically, the lock in for this type of a business ownership is 3 years. However, you will have exit options clearly mapped out once institutional investors start coming on board, which will be from the incubation period onwards. Right now, the opportunity is for you to enter at and acquire shares at face value, nominal value. For example, a participant who comes next year or the year after that, the returns that they make will be considerably lower than what you will make because you are entering right at the entry point. Okay. And I also mentioned, please do not compare this with pre-IPO funds because pre-IPO funds follow an entirely different strategy. They simply acquire valuation in companies that are about to go public. That is not what you're doing here. You're basically owning 10 ventures right at the setup stage. On that note, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A window. Your next step is actually very simple. You simply need to click on the Calendly link, pick a date, pick a time, and we will have a one-on-one conversation wherein we will also get clarity about what is your bandwidth, what are your questions, what has been your experience, and most importantly, what's your financial objective? What are you hoping to achieve by becoming a business owner? Maybe you're already a business owner, and maybe you want to expand your business or get into diversified businesses. Maybe you're not a business owner, but you like the idea, prospect of owning business ventures, but without having to operationally getting involved in them. Like having 10 ventures being professionally managed for you and a whole team reporting to you. That is what it is. So ladies and gentlemen, feel free to use the Q&A window for your questions. And like I said, the next step is very simple. The Calendly link is right there in the chat window. Just pick up a date and time, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you on a one-on-one basis. Okay, Rashmi, we have our first question here from Mr. Anil. He's asking, are my shares transferable? Oh, excellent question. Yes, preference shares are freely transferable. However, under your agreement, there is something called right of first refusal, ROFR. What that means is when you're planning to sell your stake in these business ventures, it has to be first offered to the existing shareholders. Only if they say no, will you sell it outside? Because obviously we want to give our existing clients the first preference of getting those shares because they have already been a part of the process. They have witnessed the growth and they would definitely like to acquire additional shares. Thank you. Good question. Minimum participation amount. Okay, in case I was not clear, minimum participation amount currently stands at 35 lakhs, but that will soon change because as we near the fund closing stage, that amount will increase to probably about 50 lakhs to a crore. And once institutional investors come on board and once we start the second round of funding, that will remain at 1 crores because at that point in time, we would not want to uh, liquidate the share position too much, dilute rather the shareholding too much. But right now it stands at 35 lakhs, which is why Rashmi mentioned that when you look at the participation bandwidth for this particular portfolio, you have to look at what is that you can immediately arrange and not what you can arrange in 1 year. Thank you. Mr. John, what is the lock-in period? I think I already answered that, John. As per the agreement, it's 36 months. But having said that, the nature of this ventures are such that, see, you're basically becoming a business owner of startups. So typically, in startups, what happens is when these businesses go on to the incubation stage, from that point onwards, you will start receiving exit options. But having said that, we only want to onboard participants who have at least a 3-year kind of a setup because otherwise it's going to be difficult otherwise. So keep a time horizon of 3 years, but there is chances are high that you will get exit before that. But trust me, a good percentage of our participants would never want to exit. Why would you want to exit if it's a profitable model? Because if any of your business ventures cross the IPO stage, that valuation is reflected, that jump is reflected in your shareholding. So why would you want to exit? Maybe you want to make a partial exit and create a legacy, something that you can pass on to the next generation, right? Business owners never start a business thinking, when will I exit? Does any business owner think like that? Okay, I'll start a company, but when will I wind it up? No, it's perpetual. That's the whole concept. If it's an investment, yes, it would have a maturity period, right? You purchase an insurance plan, you purchase a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan. You know when it matures. Business is perpetual. Question is, why would you want to exit if you're making that kind of returns? I hope I clarified your question, John. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any further questions, some of the questions are repeat. So I've already answered that. And so, John, regarding taxation, we will have a one-on-one conversation. Okay, so just click on the link because taxation is something that differs. Okay, the tax rules are the same, but this is open to all opportunity, right? Non-residents can participate, even foreign nationals can participate, companies can participate. So we'll have that discussion on a one-on-one call. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, like I said, if you have any questions, put them now in the Q&A box. Otherwise, simply schedule a phone call to take this discussion further. The link is right in the Calendly window. And if there are no further questions, we will then wind up this session. I'll just leave the floor open for a minute or two to see if there are any additional questions. So if you do not have any questions in particular to ask, you feel free to start logging out. Thank you for your time. Debanjan, what kind of documents I receive? I just mentioned to you that there is a set of documents that will come to you even before you pay the intent amount. The key features of your your preference share agreement, the list of ventures, your financial projections, uh, detailed write up about the business, the model, how it is structured. And once you're on board, the documentation is a continuous process. Financial information, market capitalization reports, profitability forecast reports, all that will keep coming to you along with a quarterly dashboard. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I do not see any further questions, or rather fresh questions. Most of them have been already answered. So on that note, we will bring this presentation to an end, and we would be absolutely delighted to have that one-on-one phone call with you. And we encourage you to take that opportunity to understand better and get one step closer to what we are offering. Thank you for your valuable time, and have yourselves a very good day.